we're back on Mornings with Joe Catanacci here on the Big Talker, 106.7 FM out of Wilmington, North Carolina. I hope everyone is having a great morning. Since we're on the airwaves, I figured it'd be another great opportunity to call up my normal co-host from Consumer Choice Radio, and that is David Clement. He's phoning it in from far away up there in Ontario. But David, I wanted to bring you in because I think you got some good insights on some other topics. So how are things doing this good morning, sir?
Oh, not too bad. Not too bad. No complaints.
So we got you, primed on the radio. You got your best dress on, not knowing we're only using your voice. A topic I wanted to talk to you about, and I think a lot of listeners would be interested too, is what is the future of sports? Specifically, we have in mind the pandemic, some of the restrictions. I think you were one of the first people who made the observation that many of the Stanley Cup final games are being held in various cities, and all the American games are being held open to a T, tens of thousands of people, and the Canadian games, unfortunately, happening with no fans at all. So is this just a uniquely Canadian problem? Are there other areas where they still don't have live sports, or what's a kind of update on that?
Yeah, I mean, it is weird because Montreal is playing Vegas in the conference finals in the Stanley Cup playoffs, and Game 1 was in Vegas in front of 20,000 fans. Full, jammed, capacity crowd. It's actually a particularly good place to watch an NHL game, and when they go back to Montreal for games 3 and 4, I think at the most they're going to have maybe 2,500 fully vaccinated healthcare workers. So it really is like, it really gets you to ask yourself, like, what are we doing? For Quebec and Montreal, there probably, and I'm saying this as a Toronto fan, there probably isn't a better hockey market in the world in terms of like the presence in the arena. And so the fact that legislators can't get it together so that fully vaccinated people can watch the game, they should just have as many fully vaccinated people in the stands as possible, in my opinion. But are they going to go that route? I don't think so, because they may be called hypocrites for giving the Canadians an exemption. But it's been puzzling to watch that disparity. The Blue Jays are another example, a team that's not even playing in Canada because they don't have the exemption to cross the border. So it is a Canadian problem. It's not unique. We're seeing some of these issues with Euro 2020 as well, because that has kicked off, and it's being played in various cities across Europe, and so you're seeing some different rules here and there. But generally speaking, the crowds I've seen, whether it be in Hungary or Germany, are traditionally more than what you would have at a Canadian NHL game. So it's a disservice to fans, because you can certainly do it safely. Obviously, Vegas has figured it out, and other stadiums have figured it out. So hopefully we can get our act in order, because, it is a huge part of any sport, that live experience. And when you lose that, you lose it. Whether you're watching on TV or not, you lose that feeling, that atmosphere. The players lose that feeling. In many instances, a lot of these teams played much of the season in front of nobody, which would be quite strange for a professional athlete who's used to the exact opposite. So, it sucks. But hopefully this is near the end of restrictions on pro sporting events, because I'm super excited to get back to whether it be an MLB game, an NHL game, and I'm sure a lot of listeners, if they haven't already been in North Carolina to any professional college sports, they're probably itching to get back to it as well.
Yeah, I know we had the Indianapolis 500 in April. I think it was 130,000 people in attendance. It was one of the largest sort of sporting events that we've had so far in the last year. It seems for the NCAA games, college basketball, huge religion, I would say, in the state of North Carolina. That was mostly restricted. I think it was about 30% capacity in most places, and they tried to do as much spacing. We do hear that the Carolina Panthers football team are at full capacity once they open up and later this year, so that'll be very good. I believe the first match is in August, so it's coming up a bit quicker than others might think. Baseball been opening up. I mean, all of this has been very interesting to see because then, we thought 2 years ago the intersection between politics and sports was bad, but then we got the governors in there and the premiers that were actually determining how many fans could show up and what they were allowed to do. Another question that I have, David, about this, because you follow sports a bit more than I do. I'm fairly limited to just our great NASCAR events, some of the greatest, obviously, in the country. But I want to know, you're someone who looks at consumer trends. You understand how people consume sports. Are we seeing a general trend of people perhaps using different methods? Are a lot of people streaming? Are they paying a lot of money to have these kind of standalone streaming packages like, I don't know, NFL Network, NBA Network? Are people normally getting it just through on-the-air broadcast? Are we seeing the personalization of kind of sports streaming the same way we have with everything else?
I think it's slowly going that route. So the NHL's new partnership with ESPN will actually include integration into their app. But what I can say is the biggest hurdle to all of this have been the silly blackout restrictions based on where you regionally are. And that's really why I guess you could call them illegal streams are so popular for major sporting events, not just pay-per-view events, like regular games, because you'll have things where I want to watch the Leafs in San Jose or whatever, but Ottawa is also playing tonight. And so one of those markets trumps the other, and then my cable provider, even if I'm using their app, will block me out of the ability of watching the Toronto game based on how the rights work. And so I'm hoping that the NHL's new deal will try and sidestep a lot of those restrictions, where ESPN will just cover, like, all of the games that they cover will be included in their app. That would be the goal, because people just want it to be more accessible. I know some of the major providers here for NHL hockey have integrated it into their online services. And so, like, if you're accessing it and you sign in, let's say you have cable, and you sign in on your tablet or your phone, you can watch some of the games so long as it's in market. So it is going that direction. It's not nearly as quick as you would like, because ultimately, I would love to be able to just scroll through. It's a Saturday afternoon. There are 15 games on in the NHL. I want to watch the Hurricanes host the Florida Panthers. Well, I'm probably not going to be able to watch that game unless I do so illegally. But it would be great for growing the game. It would be great for growing the fan base. And I actually think it would be great for continuing to integrate the betting portion of what the NHL, in one instance, is embracing. So if you can combine those two and merge them, you can create just a much more friendly user experience that just builds your existing base, because it makes it more accessible for them, but then it allows for you to reach new people, because I'm using the NHL as an example because hockey is my preferred sport. It just allows you to grow the game and grow your viewership and your audience and all of that, which is important in today's market, because you have so many top professional sports leagues. You have the Big Four, but then you also have other sports like NASCAR, right, or F1 or tennis, like all of these other things competing for people's time. And so you have to make that as accessible as possible.
You're listening to Mornings with Joe Catanacci here on the Big Talker, 106.7 FM. Yael Ossowski filling in. We're speaking with David Clement, North American Affairs Manager at the Consumer Choice Center, and a co-host, along with myself, of Consumer Choice Radio Saturdays at 10. David, you mentioned a couple things in there that were really interesting to me. So here in the last 2 minutes, number one is about gambling and betting. You kind of mentioned that. I think here in North Carolina, we have one state representative who's all in, Representative Jason Saine. We actually invited him to come on the program, but did not accept our invitation. So we'll do a little bit of shaming there. But he wants to make sports betting completely legal in North Carolina. We've seen a number of other states, Michigan and New York, that do allow it, various aspects. Florida is discussing it. And then, you have all of this going on. People are trying to bet on these games. They're gamifying various parts of it that don't have to do just with the score. It's about the various statistics. I mean, if this were to be legalized, sports gambling, what would this mean for sports? Could this mean that, it wouldn't just be about the enjoyment of the game, but it would actually be, an interesting economic experiment where we can bet on the outcome of, UNC versus Duke or NC State versus whatever other team?
Yeah, I mean, it really does change the fan experience. I mean, one anecdote is I was at a Blue Jays game with a buddy of mine pre-COVID, and so first off, it's not really a question of whether or not people will gamble or bet on these sporting events, because they already do. The kind of gray market for this is a multi-billion dollar industry, so people already do this. And my friend happened to have one of those apps and was able to bet on like the outcome of an at-bat, being like, oh, I think Justin Smoke's going to hit a double here, and I'm going to put 5 cents on it, and it'll pay out $8 if he does. And that made and we were in the stadium, that made the in-stadium experience something that I had never even thought was possible. Because you're now like on your feet for an at-bat in the middle of the order in the 4th inning, when usually you'd probably just be getting a beer or talking and being distracted, because that's traditionally what people do at baseball games. So yeah, it just made the experience incredible. And so if you could multiply that and expand it, and obviously do so responsibly, why not? You pivot people away from these gray market apps, which they can be great and they can be terrible, to a regulated product that has some assurances, and then therefore people are a little safer in what they're doing.
We're talking all things sports, being a fan, and innovations, and we're doing that with David Clement. David, I don't talk to you enough during the week, so it's great to talk to you here on the Mornings with Joe Catanacci show. We'll talk to you later this week on Consumer Choice Radio.
Fantastic.
All right, talk then. That is David Clement. He is my co-host of Consumer Choice Radio, which broadcasts here on the Big Talker Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern. And you guys wouldn't know it by listening to David here on the radio, but he's quite the media star up there in his native Canada. I guess our native Canada, if that makes sense. He is typically featured on all the mainstream TV broadcasts. He's been published in all the main newspapers. He's very much a part of the ongoing debate and a lot of the things that are happening up there in Canada. So it's always great to get his insight on all topics across North America. Still very relevant for our North Carolina audience here in Wilmington, North Carolina. Hopefully it's been entertaining to listen to David. We didn't really, we don't really talk about sports very much. Sports are not my forte, as it were, apart from NASCAR. Any other NASCAR fans out there, if you're listening on the stream or anywhere else, give me a like right there. Hit subscribe. You know how it goes. We have plenty more to come. We get 2 more segments here on the Mornings with Joe Catanacci show. Been a great morning. Been able to listen in to some great guests, ask some great questions. Thank you guys for listening. Again, my name is Yael Ossowski, filling in on the Mornings with Joe Catanacci show. You've got a whole host of guest hosts this week, so do tune in tomorrow. Andrew Donaldson will be taking the mic. He'll be doing a good amount in Lend with Ben. If you guys know him, he'll be on the program on Friday. So much to come from Big Talker. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after this.